Okay, so we are going to balance a chemical equation using the algebraic method. Here we have methane gas plus diatomic oxygen reacting to form carbon dioxide and H2O. Okay, to solve this, we must form a column, including all the elements in the reaction. In this case, we have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. After we form this column, we must form another column, including variables. So we will assign variables to each molecule in this equation. In this case, we have variable A, variable B, C, and D. With these variables, we will form a column, A, B, C, and D.
So for the next step is to create variable equations using the subscripts as coefficients to tie all of the elements back together. So we had variable A, and we have carbon and hydrogen attached to it. So on the reactant side, we want to make sure that our carbons equate to our carbons on our product side. So variable A has one carbon, it's a given, 1 mole of carbon here. And we see on the product side we have 1 mole of carbon here. And that's on variable C. So variable C is also 1. So essentially A equals C. And then we follow through with the rest of the variables, rest of the elements. So on hydrogen, that is also A, but it has a subscript of 4, so it has 4A. On the product side, we have hydrogen is under variable D with a subscript of 2. Next variable is B. Oxygen has a subscript of 2. On the reactant side, on the product side, oxygen, it's in C and D. So we have variable C plus variable D to account for all of the oxygen here on the product side. So on C, we have a subscript of 2, 2C plus 1 implied 1 oxygen on D, and that's their formula. So once we've accounted for all of the variable equations, we assign a value of 1 to one of the variables because it's a given that we're going to be working with the lowest coefficient ratio for the formula. So we'll just assign the number 1 to A, and then we'll do a little bit of math.
We must solve the equations. Our first equation is A equals C. Since A equals 1, C is implied to be 1. Now, to solve the second equation, 4A equals 2D. We must substitute 1 for A and solve for D. Four divided by 2 is 2, so D equals 2. The third equation is 2B equals 2C plus D. We must solve for B. Since we already know that C is 1, we plug it in for C. And since we already know that D equals 2, we plug it in for D. Four divided by 2 is 2, so B equals 2. These are the coefficients for the equations. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 1, and D equals 2. And now we have a balanced equation. Double check your work. Here we see that in the reactant side we have 1C, and on the product side we have 1C. We also check for hydrogen. On the reactant side we have 4 hydrogen, and the product side we have 4 hydrogen. 2 times 2 is 4. So we check for oxygen. On the reactant side we have 4 because 2 times 2 is 4. And on the product side we have 2 oxygens plus 2 oxygens equals 4. So it checks out that we have 4 oxygens and 4 oxygens on each side. So the reaction is balanced.
And just for quick tips, what we went over, take a snapshot of it if you like. And that's the magic of balancing a chemical reaction.